Well, hello everyone. So today's my birthday, so I celebrate that fact by telling you a story. It's a true story, and it's about when I was a kid. So when I was a kid, there was this family that we knew very well, and it was my dad's work colleague. And they were unusual, and the first thing that's unusual about them is that this dude lived with his son and his sister. No wife, no partner, sister. Never explained to me. People didn't talk about such things at that point. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing that my mum told me about him is that he was a very controversial figure because he told his sister, who lived with him as if she was taking on the role of the housewife, he was out at work, and the message was clear. Under no circumstances are any plastics allowed in the house. No plastics. Plastics are forbidden. They will not cross the threshold of this dwelling. She didn't like this, and it was a source of some inconvenience to her, and she used to complain to my mum every now and again about, oh, it's so difficult, I can't use a nice plastic bucket to do my cleaning with like you can, I have to use this old metal enamelled one. And so it went on. And what an amazing thing this guy did, and how incredibly ahead of his time. He was a scientist, actually working in rocket propulsion of all things, and he must have studied plastics and polymers, and he came to the conclusion that no, it's wrong. Not a good idea at all. And isn't it interesting how you get people that just like way ahead of their time? And you think about all the implications, like, okay, all the clothes I wear actually are natural fibres, with a single exception of socks and my fleece coat, plastic. So a lot of people's clothes we wear are plastic. And then there are so many other things too, obviously. And here's the thing, you might be wondering, well, how did the dude manage it? Because he's saying no plastics in the house. What about all the plastic packaging on all the foods that they bought? Well, this is the interesting thing, because this is so long ago that when she went shopping, there were no supermarkets. It was the days of the corner shop, and also the shop that sold fruits and vegetables, the greengrocers, the butcher for the meat, the fishmonger for the fish, and the other shop for all the other things, which was called, hilariously enough, and gives you an idea, it was called the Home and Colonial. In the days that the UK had things called colonies, very strange. The name obviously hung on long after it had any relevance. But here's the thing, if you went to buy things in that shop, everything that you bought would come in a paper bag. If you wanted to buy biscuits, for example, they would be in a big metal tin with a glass lid, and you'd point to the ones you wanted, you'd wait in a queue until it was your turn, and then the dude would open up the lid and they would get the biscuits out. In those days they probably would have used their hands as well, not plastic gloves, more plastic, and they would have put them into the paper bag, weighed them, and that's how it was all done. And plastic bags were just coming in for people to use for their shopping, but there were still baskets, shopping baskets made out of natural materials like willow and other wood materials. So indeed that's what was going on. So isn't it interesting just to reflect, and now we live in the time that if you look at Facebook for any length of time, you will see news feed information about the sea choked full of plastics. You'll notice that if you go buy fish in a fishmonger's or a supermarket, you'll notice that if you were to have a really accurate camera and to zoom in on that fish, you would see fibres of plastic. So we all know, do we? Well, we should all know that when you heat plastic to a high temperature, like if you're going to cook fish, what happens is it burns and it turns into something called dioxins, and dioxins are one of the most powerfully poisonous substances on the planet. Instant cancer, instant horrible things, really toxic stuff when you burn plastic. So yeah, how about that? If you eat fish, you're going to be burning plastic fibres and taking in the toxins as a result. Pretty hideous, isn't it? So just think about all the things that we use plastics for. And then there's the recent things going on in the UK. People go to the supermarket as a group and they do a protest. They take all the plastic packaging off the items once they've bought them and walk out of the shop without any plastic, just to let people know it's insane. And it is. We are using something which is causing so many problems that you're having injuries and damages to wildlife and to other animals and mammals and birds, and it's really dodgy shit. That's the bottom line. Plastic is no good, and we managed to dig ourselves into this hole. It's rather like an addiction. Imagine a person becomes totally addicted to something. In a sense, what they've done is they've dug themselves a really deep hole. Well, the human race has dug a really deep hole. It's called addiction to plastics. I don't like the word addiction. I tend to like to use the word habit. But when it comes to plastic, I feel that addiction is an appropriate word to use. And I realise that the device which I'm making this film on is made of plastic. And even the wire containing the lead that takes it's the microphone, it's all plastic. So I personally can see that we are going to need to keep some plastics, but there's so much of it we just don't need. Natural fibres for clothing, paper for packaging. And the other thing I do personally is I find that when it comes to keeping vegetables in the fridge, it keeps better in plastic. So what I do is I buy almost all my vegetables and fruit from places, not supermarkets, but organic farm shops and organic shops. And everything is served there with paper bags. What I do is I take my old plastic bags from ages ago and I reuse them over and over and over again. And that also cuts down on the plastic. So see what you can do as an individual consumer to do an inventory of the plastic that's coming into your home and see what you can do to reduce and reduce and reduce the amount that's coming in. And if you feel like you want to take part in demonstrations to make people aware of the harmfulness of plastic, good on you. It's such an important thing. And just to think that dude all those years ago, it's not coming in my house. And the reason I'm mentioning it to you, because he was instantly regarded to be a weirdo and unpopular, and he was challenging people, he was initiating them, pushing them outside their comfort zones just by behaving like that. He was disliked for it. And that's what often happens when someone's a trailblazer way ahead of their time. See what you can do to minimise your plastic use and see how much better you feel. It feels great that I don't ever buy a plastic bag. I just reuse the old ones. It's a start, isn't it? And in the fullness of time I can replace my plastic bags with other bags. And there's an image of some other bags which are really cool bags to use, which come from natural fibres. Or you've got the traditional shopping basket, what people always used to use, and which lasts for years. So be inventive and be creative about how you can reduce and reduce and reduce plastics from your environment and your life. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.